The Battle of Stalingrad stands as one of the most brutal and decisive confrontations in human history. In the summer of 1942, Nazi Germany advanced deep into the Soviet Union, seeking to secure oil fields in the Caucasus and to strike a symbolic blow by capturing the city of Stalingrad, named after the Soviet leader Joseph Stalin. The city's strategic location on the western bank of the Volga River made it a crucial transport hub and industrial center. Factories in Stalingrad produced armaments and military supplies vital for the Soviet war effort, and controlling the city would disrupt these operations while opening a path further east. Adolf Hitler personally emphasized the symbolic importance of Stalingrad. Capturing a city bearing Stalin's name would, in his eyes, humiliate the Soviet leadership and demoralize their population. Meanwhile, Joseph Stalin issued a strict order to defend the city at all costs. This decree, later known as "Not a Step Back," demanded that no Soviet territory be abandoned without resistance, and it transformed the battle into a fight of sheer endurance and determination. By July 1942, German forces had begun their assault on Stalingrad. The Luftwaffe bombed the city relentlessly, reducing entire districts to rubble. Smoke and fire filled the skies as thousands of civilians were caught in the chaos. The destruction, however, did not break Soviet morale. The Red Army, despite being stretched thin, organized a determined defense. Soviet soldiers dug into the ruins, turning each building, factory, and street corner into a stronghold. Snipers found hidden positions among the rubble, targeting German officers and creating constant harassment for advancing troops. The fighting quickly escalated into brutal urban warfare. Unlike open field battles, where large formations could maneuver, Stalingrad forced soldiers into close-quarter combat. Tanks and infantry became entangled in the narrow streets, and every block could hide deadly ambushes. German forces, initially confident after their rapid advances across the Soviet steppes, found themselves slowed to a crawl. Progress was measured in meters rather than kilometers, and each gain came at a tremendous cost. Soviet commanders, including Vasily Chuikov, implemented a strategy of hugging the enemy, keeping Soviet troops close to German forces to minimize the effectiveness of artillery and air bombardments. This approach forced German soldiers into the city's ruins, where every step could be met with sniper fire, hidden explosives, or sudden counterattacks. Civilians, though suffering extreme hardship, often assisted the defenders by constructing barricades, carrying ammunition, and providing intelligence on enemy movements. As the battle dragged on into the late summer and early autumn, both sides suffered staggering losses. German forces underestimated the resilience of the Red Army and the difficulties posed by the urban environment. Ammunition, food, and medical supplies became scarce for both sides, but the Soviets benefited from their proximity to supply routes along the Volga River. Despite constant bombing, reinforcements and supplies continued to arrive, allowing the Soviet defense to remain operational. As the brutal summer of 1942 faded into autumn, the Battle of Stalingrad entered a new, even more perilous phase. German forces, despite capturing large portions of the city, had overextended their supply lines. The Sixth Army, commanded by General Friedrich Paulus, faced increasing logistical difficulties. Fuel, food, and ammunition were all in short supply, and the advancing winter promised to exacerbate these problems. Soviet planners recognized an opportunity to turn the tide. Under the command of Generals Georgy Zhukov and Alexander Vasilevsky, the Red Army meticulously prepared a counteroffensive that would later be known as Operation Uranus. The plan aimed to encircle the German Sixth Army by launching coordinated attacks from the north and south, striking weaker Romanian and Italian Allied units that guarded the flanks of the German forces. On November 19, 1942, Operation Uranus was unleashed. Soviet forces struck with overwhelming force, breaking through the flanks and advancing rapidly to meet at the rear of the German positions. The Sixth Army found itself trapped in a tightening pocket within Stalingrad, cut off from reinforcements and supply lines. German attempts to relieve the encircled troops from the outside were hampered by harsh weather, Soviet resistance, and the sheer scale of the operation. The encirclement marked the beginning of a nightmare for German soldiers. Winter descended with unforgiving severity, temperatures dropping far below freezing. Soldiers, already weakened by weeks of continuous fighting and shortages, suffered from frostbite, hunger, and disease. Efforts to airlift supplies were only partially successful. Many of the parcels failed to reach the front lines, and critical equipment never arrived. Morale plummeted as the soldiers realized that escape was impossible and that their situation was becoming increasingly desperate. Within Stalingrad, Soviet troops continued their relentless urban combat. The city, already a ruin, became a frozen battlefield. Each street, each building, and even the sewers were contested fiercely. Small units launched surprise attacks, snipers picked off officers, and artillery pounded German positions without pause. Civilians, many of whom had survived the summer bombings, continued to endure unimaginable hardship, providing support to the defenders whenever possible. By late December, the encirclement was complete. The German Sixth Army, numbering over 250,000 soldiers at the start of the campaign, was reduced to fewer than 100,000 effective combatants. Starvation and disease took a heavy toll, and General Paulus, despite receiving orders from Hitler to fight to the last man, faced a grim reality. Surrender was the only option to save lives, though the cost would be enormous. By early February 1943, the grim reality of Stalingrad became undeniable for the German Sixth Army. General Friedrich Paulus, who had been promoted to field marshal by Hitler with the expectation that he would never surrender, faced an impossible situation. Starvation, cold, and relentless Soviet attacks had decimated his forces. On February 2, 1943, Paulus formally surrendered to the Red Army, marking the end of one of the most harrowing sieges in military history. The human cost of the battle was staggering. Estimates suggest that over 2 million people, including soldiers and civilians, were killed, wounded, or captured during the months of fighting. German troops suffered massive casualties, and many of those captured were sent to Soviet prison camps, where survival rates were extremely low. Soviet forces also endured severe losses, but the victory had a profound psychological and strategic impact, providing a critical turning point on the Eastern Front. Civilians bore the brunt of the devastation. Stalingrad, once a bustling industrial city, had been transformed into a frozen wasteland. Entire neighborhoods were reduced to rubble, and survivors faced hunger, disease, and the psychological trauma of living amid constant bombardment. Yet, despite these hardships, the civilian population played an important role in sustaining the Soviet defense. They assisted with logistics, provided shelter for soldiers, and continued to maintain a sense of community under impossible circumstances. The surrender at Stalingrad had far-reaching consequences. Strategically, it marked the end of Germany's advance into the Soviet Union. The Red Army seized the initiative on the Eastern Front, gradually pushing back German forces and reclaiming lost territories. Morally, the victory served as a powerful symbol of Soviet resilience and determination. Internationally, it demonstrated that the Wehrmacht, previously seen as invincible, could be defeated. In the aftermath, Stalingrad became a symbol of endurance and sacrifice. The city's reconstruction was a monumental effort, reflecting both the physical and psychological scars left by the battle. Memorials and monuments were erected to honor the countless lives lost, serving as a reminder of the devastating costs of war. The lessons learned from Stalingrad, the importance of logistics, urban warfare tactics, and the human element in battle, continue to be studied by military historians and strategists around the world. The Battle of Stalingrad was not only a military confrontation, but also a test of human endurance and determination. The resilience of both soldiers and civilians under unimaginable conditions exemplified the extremes of human courage and suffering. It became a turning point in World War II, shaping the subsequent course of the war and leaving an indelible mark on history. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it.